Become a new you, complete life reset in 2025. Most people don't need a new year. They need a new identity. They think a life reset means changing routines, goals, habits, or environments. But the truth is far deeper and far harsher. You don't reset your life by doing more. You reset your life by becoming someone you've never been. And no one understood this more painfully than a man named Ravi Sharma. The man who carried years on his shoulders. Ravi wasn't old. But he felt old. He felt worn out. Tired. Heavy. Not from age, but from years of mistakes, failures, and disappointments piled onto his back like invisible weight. Every January he told himself the same lie: this year will be different. But every year, it wasn't. He tried planning. He tried disciplining. He tried grinding. He tried changing everything outside himself, while changing nothing inside himself. And year after year, the same version of him showed up, tired, stuck, confused, frustrated. Ravi didn't need a new calendar. He needed a new self. The night everything fell apart, it was December 28, 2024. Almost the new year. Almost the time everyone starts pretending change is coming. Ravi sat alone in his apartment, staring at a blank page titled 2025 Life Reset Plan, but his mind was empty. He didn't know what to write, what to change, what to fix, what to become. He had tried everything before, and everything had failed. He whispered to himself, "I don't even know who I want to be anymore." As the words left his mouth, a presence stirred behind him. Soft, quiet, familiar. A voice said, "That's because you've been trying to fix your life, while staying the same person." Ravi's heart slammed against his ribs. He spun around. A man stood in the corner, calm, composed, eyes filled with the kind of understanding that felt like he had known Ravi his entire life. Ravi froze. Who are you?" he stammered. The man stepped forward. "I'm here because 2025 will not save you." Ravi blinked. "What are you talking about?" The man said, "Years don't change people. Identities do." "The truth about life resets." The stranger gestured to the blank page on the table. "You've been writing goals," he said. "Making plans. Trying to force discipline." Ravi nodded. "Yes, and none of it lasts." "Of course it doesn't," the stranger replied. "Because you're trying to create a new life, with an outdated identity." Ravi swallowed. "Outdated?" The man nodded. "You're trying to step into 2025 as a new person, while carrying the scars, fears, and beliefs of 2020. 2021, 2022. 2023, 2024. He stepped closer. "You don't need a new plan, Ravi. You need a rebirth." Ravi's throat tightened. "A rebirth?" The stranger nodded. "Yes. A complete internal reset. A death of the old self. A birth of the new." Ravi whispered, "How?" "The first pillar of a life reset." The stranger sat across from Ravi. "The first pillar of a true life reset," he said, "is identity shedding." Ravi frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," the stranger explained, "you cannot carry the beliefs that broke you into the life that will heal you." He pointed at Ravi's chest. "You are not stuck because of what you lack. You are stuck because of what you refuse to let go of." Ravi's eyes softened. "What am I refusing to let go of?" The stranger answered without hesitation, "Your failures." Ravi froze. The man continued, "You keep replaying every mistake. Every bad year. Every disappointment." He pointed to the blank page again. "And you're trying to build a new year on top of the ashes of old ones." He shook his head gently. "That is not how rebirth works. The second pillar of a life reset. The stranger stood and walked toward Ravi's bookshelf. He picked up an old journal, not one Ravi had touched in years. The stranger opened it. January 5, 2021, he read aloud. I'm going to change everything this year. He flipped the page. February 2, 2021. I feel behind. Something's wrong with me. Another page. March 14, 2021. I think I'm meant to stay the same. The stranger closed the journal. This is why you don't change, he said softly. Your identity is built from the events that hurt you, not the events that could rebuild you. Ravi felt his chest tighten. I didn't know I was doing that, he whispered. No one does, the stranger replied. That's why most people stay the same. The third pillar, who you must become. The stranger sat down again. Ravi, he said, tell me who you want to be in 2025. Ravi hesitated. I don't know. The stranger nodded. That's the real problem. He leaned forward. You should not be asking, what do I want to do next year? He pointed gently. You should be asking, who must I become next year? Ravi felt a chill run through him. Who must I become? He repeated softly. The stranger smiled. Exactly. He continued, a life reset isn't about chasing new goals. It's about becoming the person who can handle them. He tapped his heart. You want confidence? Become someone who keeps small promises. You want discipline? Become someone who shows up even without motivation. You want success? Become someone who doesn't sabotage growth. Ravi nodded slowly. It made sense. Painfully deep sense. So who do I need to become? He asked. The stranger smiled faintly. That is the question that will reset your entire life. He walked toward the door. And tomorrow, he said, I will tell you who first taught you to stay the same. Ravi's heart dropped. Who? He asked urgently. The stranger paused in the doorway. He glanced back, eyes heavy with truth. You already know who, he said quietly. But tomorrow, you'll finally face it. The door closed. Ravi sat in the quiet room, heart racing, realizing that the life reset he always wanted had just begun. Ravi didn't sleep. Not because he wasn't tired, but because the stranger had pulled a thread inside him that had never been tugged before. Tomorrow. I will tell you who first taught you to stay the same. Those words echoed in his mind like a quiet storm. Who taught him stagnation? Who shaped his beliefs? Who held him in place while the years kept moving? He stared at the ceiling until dawn, remembering every person who ever influenced him. A teacher. A cousin. A friend. An employer. But none of them felt like the answer. There was only one possibility he refused to consider, because it hurt too much. At exactly 9 a.m., the knock came. Ravi opened the door instantly, as if he had been waiting beside it. The stranger stepped inside, calm, composed, as if this moment had already happened. Sit, the man said. Ravi sat. The stranger stood. Are you ready for the truth? He asked. Ravi swallowed. I think so. The stranger nodded. Good. Then let's begin your real reset. The origin of all limits. The stranger paced slowly around the room. Ravi, he said, people don't fail because of strategy. People fail because of identity. He pointed to Ravi's chest. An identity is formed by the voices we trusted the most. Ravi felt his heartbeat quicken. The stranger continued, the person who taught you to stay the same did not do it intentionally. He paused. They did it because they were afraid. Ravi exhaled shakily. Afraid of what? The stranger met his eyes. Afraid of losing you. Afraid of change. Afraid of growth. He stepped closer. And afraid that if you evolved, you would leave them behind. Ravi felt something deep inside him twist. He whispered, "Who are you talking about?" The stranger didn't answer yet. Instead, he walked to the shelf and picked up an old framed photo. A photo Ravi hadn't touched in years. It showed a younger Ravi, sitting between two people. His parents. The stranger held the photo gently. "Your life," he said, "began with their beliefs. Their fears. Their limits." Ravi stared at the floor, numb. "My parents wanted the best for me," he said quietly. "Yes," the stranger replied. "And they loved you deeply." He paused. "But they also taught you to be afraid of becoming someone they didn't understand." The truth about familiarity. The stranger sat across from Ravi. "Your parents," he said softly, "valued stability. Consistency. Safety." Ravi nodded. "Yes, they always warned me about risk." "Exactly," the stranger said. "They taught you that change was dangerous. That discomfort was harmful. That taking bold steps meant you might ruin everything." He tapped the table. "So you grew into a man who avoided evolution, because evolution didn't feel safe." Ravi felt his throat tighten. "They didn't mean to hold me back," he whispered. "No," the stranger said. "They didn't." A pause. "But they held you back, nonetheless." Ravi's eyes burned. "Every time you tried to grow," the stranger continued, "their voices echoed in your mind, 'Be careful. Don't be unrealistic. Why change what's already working? What if it goes wrong? Just stay where you are.'" A tear slipped down Ravi's cheek. "And so," the stranger said gently, "you learned to fear becoming someone new." The belief that trapped him. The stranger leaned closer. "Ravi, listen carefully." He pointed to the journal on the desk. "Your life didn't stagnate because of laziness. Or lack of motivation. Or poor planning." He tapped Ravi's chest. "You stagnated because you built your life around the version of you your parents felt comfortable with." He paused. "You didn't want to disappoint them. So you disappointed yourself instead." Ravi broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly, painfully, like a man realizing he has lived inside a cage he didn't know he built. The stranger placed a steady hand on his arm. "You honored their fears," he said. "But you abandoned your potential." Ravi wiped his face with shaking hands. "So, what do I do now?" he whispered. The stranger's eyes softened. "Now," he said, "you perform the single greatest act a person can do in their lifetime." He stood. "You choose who you want to become, without asking anyone for permission." Ravi's breath caught. "That," the stranger continued, "is a true life reset." The identity he must break. The stranger walked to the doorway. "You want to reset your life in 2025, he asked. Ravi nodded hard. "Then remember this, you cannot become the future version of you, while protecting the feelings of the past version of you." Ravi's eyes widened. "You need to outgrow the identity your parents gave you. Not disrespectfully. Not rebelliously." He pointed toward Ravi's heart. "But lovingly. Because they shaped you with the tools they had. But you must live with tools they did not have." Ravi whispered, "They were afraid of the world." The stranger nodded. "Yes. And you inherited that fear." The stranger walked back toward him. "But fear is not a family heirloom you must keep. You can return it. Right now." Ravi's voice was trembling. "How?" The stranger smiled faintly. "By becoming someone your past self would never believe." He stepped back. "And tomorrow, I'll show you the exact moment your life froze. Ravi stiffened. What moment? The stranger reached for the door. The moment you learn to fear disappointment more than you desired transformation. The door closed. Ravi sat alone, feeling the weight of a lifetime lifting and the birth of a new identity beginning. For the first time in years, he didn't just want a new year. He wanted a new self. Ravi sat alone long after the stranger left. The room felt heavier, quieter, thicker with memories he had spent years avoiding. Tomorrow, I'll show you the exact moment your life froze. Those words replayed in his mind like a heartbeat. He didn't want to remember. But he knew he needed to. Because you cannot reset your life until you confront the moment it stopped moving. At exactly 9 a.m., the knock came. Ravi opened the door slowly this time, bracing himself. The stranger stepped inside, eyes softer than before, almost mournful. Are you ready? He asked. Ravi nodded. Then let's go back, the stranger said. The place he never returned to. They didn't walk to a room. They didn't visit a cafe. They didn't go to a familiar street. The stranger led him to a quiet neighborhood he hadn't visited in years. Ravi froze. This is, he whispered. Yes, the stranger replied. His childhood home. The air thickened, with memories, with pressure, with echoes of the boy he once was. Ravi's feet felt glued to the ground. I don't want to go in there, he murmured. The stranger looked at him gently. That is exactly why you must. The memory he buried. They stepped inside. The house smelled the same: old wood, turmeric, incense, and a faint hint of old notebooks. On the living room shelf, a school trophy gathered dust. Ravi stared at it. That trophy, he whispered, was the last thing I ever won. The stranger nodded. That's where your story froze. Ravi felt his throat tighten. He remembered the day clearly now. He was 13. He had entered a science fair. He worked day and night on his project. He placed second. Not first. Not perfect. Second. His father looked at the trophy and said the words that shaped Ravi's entire future: second places for people who came close, but still failed. Ravi's chest cracked open. That's when I stopped trying, he whispered. The moment he started hiding, the stranger walked to the shelf and picked up the dusty trophy. One sentence, he said, defined your entire adult identity. He handed the trophy to Ravi. You learned, he said softly, that anything less than perfect was worthless. Ravi felt a tear slip down his cheek. You learned that effort only mattered if it resulted in victory. Another tear. You learned that trying new things risked disappointing the people you loved. And Ravi couldn't stop the tears now. He whispered, that's why I don't try anymore. That's why I don't set big goals. That's why I'm scared of becoming someone new. The stranger nodded. Yes. You aren't afraid of the future, Ravi. He tapped the trophy. You're afraid of repeating this moment. Ravi collapsed onto the couch, the trophy still in his shaking hands. The identity that held him captive. The stranger sat beside him. You see, he said, identity is not formed by success. He paused. Identity is formed by emotional shock. He leaned forward. Your shock was learning that almost winning meant failure. Ravi whispered, and I started playing life safe. Exactly, the stranger replied. You built a life where you could never disappoint anyone again. A pause. But you also built a life where you could never transform. Ravi looked down at the trophy. His voice cracked. I didn't know that moment affected me this much. Of course you didn't, the stranger said. People don't remember the moment they froze because they never look back. The ghost of who he could have been. The stranger stood. Ravi, he said, there is someone you need to meet. Ravi frowned. Who? The stranger walked to a hallway door. He opened it slowly. Inside was a dim, quiet room. A desk. A chair. A stack of journals. And in the faint shadow, a figure. Not physically there, but present in memory. A version of Ravi. Younger. Fearless. Still dreaming. Still believing he was allowed to try. Ravi's breath caught. That, he whispered, was me. The stranger nodded. Yes. The version of you who never judged himself. The version who believed progress was enough. The version who didn't fear disappointment. Ravi stepped closer. I remember him, he said quietly. But I don't feel like him anymore. The stranger spoke gently, and that is the final truth. He placed a hand on Ravi's shoulder. To reset your life, you must grieve the version of you who died too early. Ravi's knees weakened. He didn't sob. He didn't scream. He just stood there as the realization washed through him. He had abandoned himself. Not life. Not circumstances. Not luck. Himself. The turning point. The stranger led him back into the living room. He looked at Ravi with a rare softness. Ravi, a life reset isn't about becoming someone new. He paused. It's about returning to the person you were before the world broke you. Ravi's eyes widened. The stranger continued, you don't need to transform. You need to resurrect. He pointed toward Ravi's chest. Your real self isn't lost. He's buried. Under shame. Under expectations. Under fear. A single tear fell down Ravi's cheek. You can bring him back, the stranger said. Right now. In this very moment. Ravi swallowed hard. What do I have to do? The stranger stepped back. Let go. Of what? Ravi asked. The man's voice softened to a whisper, of the boy who thought second place meant he wasn't enough. Ravi's breath trembled. He let the trophy drop to the floor. It hit the carpet softly, but the sound echoed through the house like a chain breaking. The stranger smiled faintly. Good, he said. Tomorrow, you rise. He walked toward the door. Tomorrow, he said quietly, you stop living for the approval of ghosts. The door closed. And Ravi stood alone in the silence, feeling the old identity finally loosen its grip. Tomorrow, he would build a new one. Ravi stood alone in the quiet house, the fallen trophy lying at his feet like the last remnant of a version of himself he no longer wished to be. Something felt different now. Not lighter. Not easier. But clearer. He understood the pain. He understood the freeze. He understood the beliefs that trapped him. And now, he was ready to confront the truth that would set him free. At exactly 9 a.m., the knock came for the final time. Ravi opened the door, not anxious, not afraid, but ready. The stranger stepped inside slowly, studying Ravi's face. You've changed, he said softly. Ravi nodded. I feel it. The stranger smiled faintly. Good. Then today, I'll show you who you were meant to become. The final lesson of a life reset. They sat in the living room. The air felt different, charged with possibility, as if the world was waiting for Ravi to make a decision that had been delayed for years. The stranger spoke first. Ravi, he said, most people think a life reset is about goals, plans, or habits. He shook his head. They're wrong. He leaned forward. A true reset begins when you choose to become someone your past self wouldn't recognize. Ravi's breath caught. The stranger continued, you've let the world sculpt you. Now it's time to sculpt yourself. The 4 identities of transformation. The stranger took out a blank notebook and drew 4 shapes: a circle, a square, a triangle, a star. He pointed to the first. 1. The circle, the repeater. This is who you've been for years. Repeating patterns. Repeating fears. Repeating the same life. He tapped the second. 2. The square, the survivor. This is who you became after the trophy moment. Rigid. Careful. Safe. He pointed to the third. 3. The triangle, the climber. This is who you think you need to become in 2025. Disciplined. Structured. Focused. Then he tapped the final symbol, the star. The entire energy of the room shifted. 4. The star, the reborn. This, the stranger said quietly, is who you are meant to be. Ravi stared at the symbol. What does it mean? The stranger smiled. It means you live from creation, not correction. From potential, not fear. From expansion, not survival. Ravi's eyes softened. And how do I become that? The truth about rebirth. The stranger stood. Ravi, a rebirth doesn't happen by addition. Ravi frowned. What do you mean? The stranger explained, you don't become a new you by adding habits, goals, or routines. He tapped Ravi's chest. You become a new you by removing everything that kept you small. A pause. The old identity must die so the new one can breathe. Ravi nodded slowly. I think I'm finally ready. The stranger smiled. I know you are. The unseen layer of the story. The stranger walked toward the front door. Ravi, he said, there's something I haven't told you yet. Ravi tensed. What? The stranger's voice softened. I didn't just come because your identity froze. I didn't just come because of your parents' fears. I didn't just come because of your past self. He paused. I came because someone else wanted you to break free. Ravi frowned. Who? The stranger stepped closer, his eyes filled with the kind of warmth that felt both heavy and peaceful. A person who believed in your future more than you believed in your present. Ravi shook his head. I don't know who that could be. The stranger reached into his coat and pulled out a folded envelope. Old. Soft. Worn from being opened many times. He handed it to Ravi. Ravi hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a single sheet. A letter. Handwritten. By someone long gone. Ravi felt his breath stop. It's my grandfather's handwriting, he whispered. The stranger nodded. Yes. Ravi's hands trembled as he read, Ravi, one day you will forget who you are. Not because the world changes you, but because fear convinces you to shrink. When that time comes, someone will return to remind you that you were born to grow. Not survive. Ravi's vision blurred. But, he passed away before I was even an adult, he whispered. 1 year before you entered high school, the stranger said gently. Before your father hardened. Before the pressure became unbearable. Ravi clutched the letter to his chest. He knew, he whispered. He knew I would lose myself. Yes, the stranger said softly. Your grandfather saw the path your life would take. He knew you would shrink to protect others. He knew you would hide your light. He knew you would forget your potential. The stranger paused. And he made me promise to return when the old you died. Ravi's knees weakened. He whispered, so, you came because he asked you to? The stranger nodded. Yes. Because he believed you were meant for a life far larger than the one you settled for. The final reset. Ravi wiped his tears. A new strength filled his voice as he said, I'm ready. The stranger smiled, pride glowing in his eyes. Good, he said. Then remember this truth forever. He placed a firm hand over Ravi's heart. A new year doesn't change you. A new identity does. He stepped back. And today, you are reborn. Ravi inhaled deeply, a breath that felt like the first breath of a new life. The stranger turned to leave. Will I ever see you again? Ravi asked. The stranger paused at the doorway. When the new you forgets, he said softly. When you begin to shrink again. When you confuse survival for living. He smiled gently. But I don't think that day will come soon. Ravi watched him step into the sunlight. And Ravi, he said, turning one last time. Your grandfather would be proud. The door closed. And Ravi stood in the quiet house, but he was not the same man. He felt expanded. Alive. Unchained. 2025 wasn't just a new year. It was the year he returned to himself. The year he became reborn. The year his real life began.